Morning, Ryan.
Morning, John.
Morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
You, Neil.
Chief Conley was supposed to jump on too, right?
It could be on in a moment, I believe.
Okay.
I just rattled his cage. He should be jumping on now.
Thanks, Joe.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Chief.
Sorry I'm running late.
Morning.
Grab a couple of documents here. Okay, we good to start? Who we have here? Jesse, John, Joe. We got everybody that needs to be here for this. It's required to
I
be.
think we do.
Okay, so I'll, Ryan, I heard we were recording, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep, we're gone.
all right, so this is the February 11th, 2022 Building Committee Subcommittee, RFP Review Subcommittee meeting. And consistent with the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time, and participants when necessary. Persons who wish to do so are invited to view the meeting, and the contact information, the link for this meeting was posted on the city's website. So I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll address agenda item number 1, presentation discussion with subcommittee members Joseph Fitzgerald and John Dunn regarding the outcome of the contractor scoring method. John, do you want to kick us off?
I don't like any of them. Let's start over.
Don't be said, so will it be done.
All right, so I guess just a couple of things to start off. So I guess I need a little bit of clarification. And under project experience, the third part of section D is local experience. I guess I need to know from Neil, what's the definition of local experience?
You see if we defined it in the RFQ.
And I may have missed it.
I mean, the intent of the item was to identify any previous work that they had in Gloucester and whether or not local experience was positive or negative. That's a good, reliable indicator for how they would perform for you in the future.
Okay, all right. So if there's no Gloucester experience, is that then 0 in that category?
It could be.
Okay. All right. I guess the other general question I had was under references. So, I mean, the first part, references for quality of completed work, you can probably kind of take your direction off of the DCAM paperwork. But as for references themselves and work in progress, I mean, I didn't talk to any of these people, any of the, particularly work in progress. I mean, how do we do that? We don't want to have 5 people calling,
Right.
The community of East Overshoe to say, how they doing?
I believe, John and Scott, you can chime in. I believe that CMS contacted, I believe, a minimum of 3 references for each firm and have recorded our scores based on those reference checks. Scott, is that correct?
Yeah, but for work in progress, I don't believe any of the references that I heard back from were from any works in progress. They were recently completed projects. And work in progress was, and how I graded it was just kind of looking at what they had, if it was sort of similar project experience and based on the size and complexity and type of project, if it was a CM at risk project or a regular design bid build project, I sort of graded them that way. And if they filled out their, if they had a good, if it was listed well in their proposal. That was kind of how I graded them. To be honest, they all, on my score sheet, they all were pretty much even, other than two.
Did that answer your question, John?
Yeah, I guess the next question would be, so can we agree that we will all use Scott's numerical rating for everybody? Because obviously, I didn't talk to these people. I
Yep.
certainly looked through it, but you guys are certainly much more attuned to either talking to people to get a reference or, divining a reference score from what you see in the submittal.
Yeah, that's fine. We can agree. Well, I'm certainly acceptable to that. I don't know if anybody has any objections.
So is that something this is just, it's a subcommittee. Does anybody object to us moving forward in that, with the process in that manner? Seeing none, I guess we can do it.
All right. So I guess, in terms of the batting order, CTA is up first. Is that correct?
Sure.
So how do we want to approach this? One at a time?
Yeah, that's fine. You want to go write down your scores for CTA and I'll record them. I'll just ask you I have received score sheets from the other evaluators. So when you're done, we'll just send it along.
Yeah, and again, I apologize for not sending these along, but I did have a couple of questions as to, and I may have to kind of fill some things in as we move along here.
Yeah.
So, executive summary, I gave CTA a 5, management personnel, I gave them a 9. Reporting and organizational philosophy, I gave them 5. General CMR experience, I gave them a 5, because it looked to me as if they only had one 149A job that they had disclosed. Am I missing anything there? So
I think you got that right, John. And as far as 149A, that project, if I remember, was kind of dated.
Okay.
I also gave him a 5, just by the way.
All right. Police department, public safety, I gave him a 7.5. Local experience, I guess that was part of my question, how do we arrive at that? Is it bad or good whether they've done work in Gloucester? In this case, I can comment that CTA did Beverly High School. I was part of the building committee for Beverly High School at that time. So I've had a fair amount of experience. Most of that was with Lyle Coughlin, but I also had experience with Paul DeRoss. And that was very positive. So it's not local here, but certainly it's local 15 miles down the road.
Okay.
So from local experience meeting with me, I would give them a 5. Lead experience, 5. Safety record, 5. References according to DCAM sheet, I gave them a 9. They got 87 on 17 projects, but they did get 1 project below passing. References and then work in progress. Again, what are we going to agree on for these guys.
So our scoring matrix for CTA ranked their references at 7 out of 10
Okay,
and their work in progress at 4 out of 5.
okay, very
And
good.
that's fairly consistent with what the other evaluators scored as well.
All right. Okay, financials. Their financials were submitted separately, were not part of the package.
That's correct.
All right, so I didn't see those.
Okay.
I could certainly review them in half an hour.
Yeah,
because-
John, I'll send those to you. That was my oversight. I had
And I-
previously sent them to Chip and I will get them into your hands today.
And I think there was, hold on just a second. Commodore submitted theirs separately too. So I'll need Commodores.
Yep, we'll do that.
Thank you. Terminations, 3, convictions or fines, 3. Litigation, they disclosed a fair amount of litigation. It didn't look to me that anything was too huge, but there was a fair amount of litigation there. So I gave them a 2 and then 3 and 3 on administrative actions and arbitrations.
Okay. So so maybe what I'll do is I will roll through their scores in general. Executive summary, anywhere between 4 and 5 points. Management personnel, anywhere between 6 and 10 points. Reporting and operating philosophy, 4 to 5 points. CMR experience, 5 to 8 points. PD and public safety experience, 4 to 10 points. Local experience, 0 to 5 points. Lead experience, 3 to 5 points. Safety record, 5 points. References, completed work, 6 to 10 points. Professional references, 7 to 10 points. And works in progress, 4 to 5 points. And then on financial termination, convictions or fines, litigation, administrative actions, and arbitrations, they were anywhere between 1 and 5 points, depending on each category. And their total scores ranked between 72 and 80 points. So I would say we're all in the same neighborhood.
Okay. What's next?
Castagna,
Castagna. Okay. I will say, like CTA, I had some experience with Castagna when I was in Beverly, and that experience was positive. Executive summary, 4, management personnel, 8, reporting and organizational philosophy, 5. General CMR experience. I guess in this case too, I had some difficulty kind of determining what that is. Maybe I just missed it in my review. But I'm
so
willing to go along.
CMR experience was intended to be past Chapter 149A experience within Massachusetts.
Yep. And I guess again, did I miss it? And I probably did. Did they have some?
I don't think they had any. I think they had some CMR experience outside of 149A.
Yeah, that's.
I
kinda
rated
what I
it a
thought.
little differently than how Neil just explained it. I rated it as obviously with the emphasis on 149A, but I gave them something if they were doing some CM work on something else, and I got a positive, reference to back
And
it up.
that seems to be consistent, Scott, with what other reviewers have found.
Yeah,
All right, so they have some, but not in the public sector, so I would give them a 5 there. Police Department, Public Safety, gave them a 9. Local experience, again, they've done some work in Gloucester, not public work, but they've done some work, and I had some experience with them in Beverly, and that was positive. So I'm going to give them a 5 in that. Lead experience, again, I was a little confused. I didn't really see much reference to lead experience in their submittal. What do the others feel about that?
they had a 1-page, I believe, that they listed some of their experience, and they had a little narrative that just said that they would, do whatever the city wanted to do. I gave them a 4. I thought there was something there, but it just wasn't. Some of the other companies had more of like a chart with the different levels
Yeah,
of lead. they had.
exactly. It wasn't strong. I mean, it was not, they didn't put a spotlight
Yeah.
on it at all. All right, so, I mean, I'm good with a 4 in that case. Safety record 5. Quality of completed work, based on their DCAM submittal, rated 93 on 9 projects, so I gave them a 10. Again, references are whatever the references are. I didn't check them.
Oh, we had 2 evaluators that gave them 9 points and 1 evaluator that gave them 10 points.
All right,
So-
I'm good with that.
Yep. And then work in progress, 2 evaluators gave them 4 points, 1 evaluator gave them 5. So,
Okay,
okay,
I'll pick up the 4. Financials, gave them a 3. They were of the 3 entities that submitted financial information. They were the relatively the weakest. Now that is in large part because of how they're organized. So there's it's essentially owned by one person, so there's a different financial presentation. All the revenue gets basically taxed to the individual as opposed to the corporate entity. So it's a little bit different. And that kind of results in the fact that they're not as strong financially as the other 2 that I reviewed. So I gave them a 3 for that. And then I gave them 3s for terminations, convictions, litigation, admin actions, and arbitrations.
okay. So in total, their scores ranged from a 78 to a 92, with an 83 and an 86 in between. So that takes care of Castagna. The next is Commodore Builders, and just for information, we're doing these in alphabetical order, so there's no magic.
Yep. Okay, so from my rating for Commodore, executive summary 5, management personnel 10, reporting and organizational philosophy, 5. General CMR experience, 10. Police Department, Public Safety, 7.5. Local experience, again, I don't have any experience with them that I recall, and they don't seem to have any experience in Gloucester. Again, not that I would necessarily hold it against them, but didn't really know what to do here.
Yep. So each of the other evaluators awarded them 0 points, John.
Okay, so I'll go with that too. Lead experience, 5. Safety record, 5. References based on DCAM, they averaged 97 on 14 projects reviewed, so I gave them a 10. References for a completed project, and then work in progress. Again, where did
Each of the other evaluators gave them 10 points on references and 5 points for work in progress.
okay. Financials, didn't review them, but we'll be happy to do it. Terminations, 3. Convictions or fines, 3. Litigation, 2. Admin actions, 3. Arbitrations, 3.
Okay. GVW,
GVW, executive summary, 4. Management personnel, 9. Reporting and organizational philosophy, 5. General CMR experience, 0. I mean, on their Schedule D, Part A, they said none.
yes.
So 0. Police Department, Public Safety, 5. Local experience, again, didn't really see anything in Gloucester, but they did 2 school projects in Beverly when I was there and did them very well. So I give them 5 there for local. Lead experience. Why did I leave that blank? Hold on. 4. Safety record, 5. There was no DCAM sheet in my package.
Okay,
Did they
we'll
submit
get that.
one?
We'll get that to you.
Certificate of eligibility?
Yeah, we'll get that to you. It should have come through, John.
Yeah, there was some other DCAM documentation in there, but I didn't see a certificate.
Theirs was a bit piecemeal.
Yeah. I can tell you that I verified that everybody had their minimums. They had their bondings, their DCAM, COE, and update statement.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, Neil, because you had yeses checked off on all of those
Yep.
for them. So I just didn't see it, and that's kind of what I was using for references on the quality of completed work. Okay, so that's to come. Again, references.
So references were scored, 2 evaluators gave them 6 points, 1 gave them 10, and work in progress each gave them 5.
Okay. All right, I'm good with that. Financials, 5, and the other 5 categories after financials, 3s across the board.
Okay. So ranges and scores from 66 points to 77 points for a total of 285.
All right. I'm sorry, Neil, what was the range of points on Commodore? Oh, we don't have the financials yet, so, okay.
Right.
All
And
right,
last is WT Rich.
so WT Rich, again, I've had local experience with WT Rich. They did West Parish School. They're doing the new elementary school. And I'm aware of their work on the police station in Beverly. So that's just general background. So executive summary 5, management personnel 10, reporting and organizational philosophy 5, general CMR experience 10, PD public safety 7.5, local experience 5, lead experience 5, safety record 4, because it looked like they exceeded 1 under rating in a couple of years. References, quality completed work 10, they got a 92 on 16 projects in DCAM. I was able to kind of deal with references because of my experience with the 2 school projects, one that is completed and one that is a work in progress. So those are 10 and 5. And then financials 5, and the other 5 categories are all 3s.
Okay, scores range for WT Rich from 87 to 97 points for a total of 376.5. So understanding that we still have some missing information for Commodore and CTA. I guess the question to pose to the committee today is we have a decision to make. The RFQ and the state guidelines indicate that we have to interview we have to invite a minimum of 3 candidates into the RFP process. So by right, the evaluators, we could determine after the 2 scores are entered for financials, and quite frankly, looking at it on the screen in front of me, I'm not sure that it will matter in the end, but once all the scores are entered, we could select the top 3 on a total point basis and move forward to the RFP, or if the committee so chooses, we would be able to afford the opportunity to each of the 5 firms to respond to the RFP and make a presentation to us moving forward. So I will open it up to discussion and feedback from the committee, and we can make a determination from there.
All right, so maybe I'll jump in before I lose my voice here. You know, if we had 10 submittals, I would probably like to whittle it down, or would have liked to have whittled it down to just 3. Given that we have a minimum of 3 and we only had 5 submittals, I mean, I would be just as happy to invite all 5 to participate.
Does anybody else have a comment on that? Joe, your thoughts?
Just when Neil was saying that maybe those other scores added to the matrix wouldn't really make a difference as far as total scores. Maybe it might be better to take the 3 highest if there's a big disparity in the scores of the candidates, and just go forward with the 3.
So I guess, Neil, what's your experience with this? What have you seen done? What seems to be effective?
We've seen it done either way, Chief. And again, I think it really is dependent on the desires of the committee. You know, I'm sure that each of the 5 candidates are certainly capable of doing the job. There is a fairly significant drop off to the number 5 spot. And the number 4 spot is, there's a pretty big gap there as well, but the 3rd and 4th spots are where the financial scores are still remaining. So I don't want to unnecessarily discount them at this point.
Okay, so I guess in these interviews, Neil, would they be conducted by this subcommittee, or is that an interview that's conducted by the full building committee?
The interviews would be conducted by the subcommittee, and I would extend the invitation to any of the members of the building committee to join and be part of the interview.
Okay. So it seems to me that to err on the side of caution and to give everybody an equal opportunity to fully and transparently compete for this, that it seems to make sense to me, at least, that we go with an interview of all 5 candidates. John, if I understand, that's what you're recommending too, right?
Yes, but I'm not absolutely passionate about it. So I could go, I could go either way. As I said, certainly if we were looking at 10 candidates, my response would be much different, but we're only looking at 5.
Okay.
So,
It's not a big, I mean, if we give everybody an hour, we meet everybody for 1 hour, 5 hours of time isn't a big commitment to be thorough. I think it's sort of how I think about it.
exactly. Yep.
Okay. So is this something we got to put to a vote, Neil, for the subcommittee, or?
Yeah, I think just for the sake of formality, we can do that.
John, you want to make a motion?
Yes, so I would say that the committee should extend invitations for RFP to all 5 who have submitted RFQ information to us.
Okay.
So that would be CTA Construction Management, Castagna Construction, Commodore Builders, GVW Inc., and WT Rich.
Second. I second the motion.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't think I can second it as the chair. Very good. We have a motion to interview all 5 candidates, put forward by John Dunn, seconded by Joe Fitzgerald. A call for a roll call vote for the subcommittee. Joe?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So 3 votes supporting that we interview all 5 candidates. Anything else we need to do with that, Neil?
Nope, just in terms of scheduling the interviews, Chief, do you prefer that we block out 1 day and knock them all out in 1 day, or do you prefer we spread it out over 2 days?
I really don't have a preference either way. Maybe if it were, I know Joe and I probably could fit it all in 1 day. John, I don't know what that would look like for you.
It's probably just as easy for me to knock out a day than to try and schedule them over multiple days.
All right, then we'll go forward with that, Neil.
Is there a preference for this committee to do those interviews in person? Or would there be a preference to do them via Zoom? And with the changing regulations, I think we have some flexibility there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems that it'd be convenient for all of us and more convenient for the other building committee members and members of the public who may not want to tune in to do it via Zoom.
And Ryan, I'll ask you the question. You have the ability to only admit those members that are part of the interview process for the particular firm that's being interviewed, right?
Yeah, so I would just need an email address to invite them as panelists, and they would appear like they do now. you know, like
Okay.
with video and audio on. If you wanted to go about it differently, I mean, they could join as attendees and then we could raise them to panelists, but if we have,
What I want to make sure of is that, you know, someone who has the 5th interview slot does not have the opportunity to see the first 4 interviews
Got it.
and
Okay.
kind of be prepared for what's coming at them later on.
yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, if it's a public meeting, if it has to be a public meeting, it's a little tough to restrict that because anyone could technically join as an attendee in that case. So that might be a question that we'd have to determine, you know, relative to open meeting law, because I don't know that we can restrict attendance, you know, because the attendees are not really, I mean, you know, I could restrict it by IP address or say this person can't join, but, you know, I mean, it'd be impossible. They could join from anywhere, you know, they could join from a phone or from a public computer somewhere. It would be, you know, it'd be hard to restrict it like that without making it a closed meeting and saying this is not available for everybody to view.
So, I mean, the quick solution to that, well, first, if this does have to be a public meeting, or meeting open to the public, then that sounds like a real problem.
I think if we did, honestly, Chief, I think if we did it in person, a
Yeah.
lot of that would go away.
But I was about to say, if it has to be a meeting open to the public, then we're gonna have to do this in person so that everybody, you know, so basically they're sequestered. They can't, like, to your point, that they can't hear the answers and the questions asked to the other, and have the last few two contractors have it all laid out for them.
Right.
Seems to be an unfair advantage. So, okay, so we'll have to do it in person. I can coordinate space. I'm sure I can coordinate some space up at City Hall, probably get the, John, what do you think about utilize, if we're just bringing in a contractor, maybe they have a couple of people with them, and then there's gonna be, I don't know how many other people we have there, everybody that's on this call right now?
Well, yeah, I think so. And I guess, you know, we're probably going to have to do it in the auditorium, Ed. You know, it's, you know, it wouldn't be unusual for, you know, some of these guys to bring in as, you know, 5 people representing the firm. So, you know, now we're getting up to, you know, trying to maybe jam 12 people into a room. So I
Right.
think we're going to have to do it in the auditorium. You know, we can move things around. We can somehow kind of sequester, you know, the next one up down here on the first floor someplace, maybe in the committee conference room, and then just, you know, as one finishes, bring the other one up.
Okay, yeah, I think that's gonna make the most sense if we want to be able to accomplish being able to interview each contractor without the others having access to observing that.
So maybe given that, you know, when we go to schedule these, you know, and, you know, 40 minutes to an hour at a time, but we should have some amount of time in between when one finishes before the other one starts. I found it to be helpful for us to be able to have, you know, just a quick conversation about a presentation while it's still very fresh in our mind, before it gets confused with what somebody else is saying. So maybe it's something like, you know, starting somebody at 10 o'clock in the morning, they've got 45 minutes to make their presentation and answer questions. And then we have kind of 15 minutes to recap before the next firm comes in. If everybody thinks that makes sense.
Yep. That's what I was gonna suggest, John, was we can schedule a 45-minute interview. As long as the committee is comfortable that we'll be able to ask the questions that we need and develop a comfort level. Bear in mind, they're gonna manage, you know, $12, $13 million worth of work for us over the next 2 years. So I don't want this to be rushed. That's my only concern.
You know, Neil, we could certainly schedule each one for an hour. And then kind of delay the next one for 15 minutes. So they'll be kind of, you know, they won't be on an hourly basis. They'll be a little bit off cycle, but, you know, we can just tell people when they need to show up.
Yep. And 15 minutes in between is sufficient?
I think, yeah, I hope so. That,
Okay.
you know, otherwise we're gonna be, you know, an hour and a half for each one. And that's gonna be a really long day.
Right. We'll start at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. What's your preference?
Why don't we start at 9:30? Ed, Joe, what do you feel? Is that okay?
Yep, works for me.
All right.
Fine with me.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So we'll start at 9:30. We'll see how the times roll out. And we'll go from there. So just in terms of time frame, next steps where we have prepared the RFP. It'll go through a review by the city. Donna in purchasing wants to look at it. We'll put that document together. I should have it ready for Donna on Monday. Presuming that there are no issuances, we will send it out to the contractors on Monday with a letter inviting them to the interview. And we will plan for the turnaround will be roughly 3 weeks from now. The RFP that they need to fill out or complete is substantial. It involves pricing of their work and whatnot. So that will be a significant effort for them to put together over the next 3 weeks. So we'll be looking at a calendar, assuming the RFPs will go out Monday, the 14th. 1, 2, 3 weeks would be Monday, the 7th. So we will likely schedule interviews for that first end of the first week of March or the first of the second week in March. Does that work for everyone?
Yep. I'm wide open on the 3rd and the 4th.
So I go away on the 9th to the 20th. So are you talking that be done by then?
So if we gave them 3 weeks to respond to the RFP, they would not be in until Monday, the 7th.
Okay. All right.
So we could, I mean, tentatively, we could just say right now, we'll do the interviews on Tuesday, the 8th. Joe, if that's all right?
Yeah.
That works for me.
All right.
All right. So we've got I mean, that works for me, although we do have a scheduled meeting at 2:30 in the afternoon.
For this
Or at least it's
project.
on my calendar that
Right.
way.
Right.
Right.
All right, let's cancel that.
Standing meeting.
So that works. Tuesday, March 8th, starting at 9:30.
Yep.
And we'll just roll them out for, at 75-minute intervals through the day.
Okay.
Okay?
Any more discussion on the process?
Just a couple of quick comments. So we do have to be aware that Donna Compton is retiring on February 25th. So Stacy Capone will still be in the office, but we're going to be going through a hiring process, and that certainly will not be complete by the time Donna walks out the door. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. I'll jump in with help for Stacy in the meantime if needed, which might not be the best news for anybody, but that's the way it goes. The other comment I want to make is that we had a discussion regarding location of the dispatch operation. when we begin renovations on the building. And we talked about a couple of potential locations for dispatch trailer or trailers. I had a discussion with the mayor's office. Their preference would be if we could get everything located down at I4C2, the dispatch trailers and the ground level storage. That would be their preference. Ryan, you and Sean are probably going to have to take a look and see whether that works for you guys. I already mentioned this to Mike Hale, so he's going to be thinking about it also. The parking lot outside of the Chamber of Commerce is out. That would just be, the trailers would just take up too much room in that parking lot, and that would be a problem. The either end of Harbor Loop would be kind of second or third. Again, the preference would be to keep it off Rogers Street if we could, just because the size of the trailers would have an impact on traffic, and would in particular make the, that portion of the bike lanes disappear.
So is there any thought of just keeping it in the parking lot here?
Yeah,
We found, I mean, I don't know what the contract, do we have one in place, how much space they would need for equipment and supplies and stuff? I don't know. I don't have that information yet.
well, I think ground level storage, and correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, might still be located down at I4C2. But yeah, if we can keep the dispatch trailers on site, I think that would be less of a headache for Ryan and Sean.
Chief, is there any possibility that we could put the dispatch trailer on the inside of the security gate, sort of on the open parking area? I'm assuming you guys kind of use that as a sally port type or prisoner transfer in and out. Is it feasible that we could get a trailer in there for the dispatchers?
Yeah,
With
I
two
mean,
parking
obviously, I'm sure
spots?
they could create a platform for the trailer that would level it off because it is a little bit of a slope there, but that would be the perfect spot because that's all according to Sean, that's all the connections, the fiber and everything come in right there. Right at that, right above where that sally port is where all that stuff comes into. Now it's outside. I mean, Ryan, feel free to jump in here, but I know Sean was saying, even if we had it in the lot, we'd have to pull that wire over to a lot, but if we had it right here inside the sally port, that would just be a drop right into the trailer.
Yeah, they'd have to, depending on where, they'd have to splice it in, but that's not that hard. I4C2 might, depending on where in I4C2 specifically, that would probably, a lot of the fibers and conduit over there, underground conduit. So I mean, we could, I just feel like I4C2, if I remember, feels like a dirt parking lot or gravel or something. So I don't know if there's actual conduit that you could run it out down under that, or if you'd have to bring it up above ground and do some kind of, I just feel like that might get expensive.
Yeah, Ryan. So it's a gravel parking lot. And the level of the parking lot drops down from Rogers Street about 15.
Yeah, there's a slope
15
there.
to 20 feet. There are telephone poles on that side of Rogers Street.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, clearly, that I would suspect that would be more of a headache for you than one of the other locations.
Yeah, I mean, in terms, it would actually probably be more a concern of cost, I mean, in terms of the getting it in a police department parking lot would probably be the cost of, some splicing and some time and such. If we're talking about getting it over there, we'll probably need to have a survey done, figure out where they're going to pull it from and where they're going to splice it into. My guess is that would just be substantially more expensive to have it in I4C2.
Okay.
Chip, is that enough information for you guys to kind of start that ball rolling?
Well, I think a couple things. So the ground level storage that was mentioned, is that in reference to where the CM is going to be kind of doing their staging for the project? Or is that more for containers that the police department's going to use to kind of store some things in the interim?
I
Or
guess
is it
would-
both?
I guess it would be both.
Okay.
You know, really the question, Chip, is back to you. How much do we need? You know, there's plenty of space there. What we would have to do is just make sure that, you know, we declare how much space we need, and where that should be. Right now, there is a fair amount of storage for lobster traps there. And again, there's plenty of room. We can move those around. And certainly during the summer, they won't be there, but they'll be there in the winter. So we just have to let, you know, those half a dozen folks who store traps there, let them know that it's going to be a slightly different configuration.
Sure. So I think in terms of dispatch and kind of the CM's laydown area or staging area, I believe the premium location for that is going to be the parking lot that's associated with the building in the same area, and kind of that real estate that Neil was mentioning underneath the building. And whether we put dispatch in the parking lot or in the Sally, with quote unquote Sally Port area, you know, I think is going to be kind of a push and pull, you know, kind of, you know, does it make more sense to keep them in the parking lot, you know, where they can get more easy access to the public, and then let the contractor have more of the space in the Sally Port where they're going to be kind of probably going to running more of the operation as that entry point. That will probably be the easier entry point into the building than off of Main Street. So I think that can be kind of left open right now, but I think that's going to be like the premium location for them. And then that I-4C2 location could be like kind of a backup location, but primarily any storage that the department had to put over there. That would be the best location for that, because it won't encumber the other activities that the site will benefit from having closer to the building.
Well, there's one other issue here too, which is the bigger issue, which is where we're gonna go. As we know, the Middle Street is now out of play. The demolition project over there, the YMCA is gonna make that just impossible. The fact they're looking to have that street closed during the I don't know if they'll be able to, but clearly they plan on having a lot of heavy equipment up there for some significant amount of time. If it ends up becoming that us swapping out with the court and going upstairs, that ends up being something that can work. Understanding, you know, the setbacks and that approach, but if that's the case, we may even just be able to move dispatch upstairs.
And we've started to look at. Sorry,
Yep.
Chief. Yeah, we've started to look at that option. We met with CMS this morning to kind of look like, you know, what that would look like from a project duration perspective, if we were to bake that in, and then just kind of do more of a floor by floor separation, you know, or somehow divide up the building. That would make sense for the contractor. They'd still be doing a little dance around things, so it's not as advantageous for them. But you think, you know, if they had full range of the building, you're probably looking at a 14 to 16 month project. If we keep everyone in the building, it gets a little bit longer, you're probably in the 20 to 24 month range. But again, that's the whole benefit to having the CM is to iron out a lot of that stuff. And so we've started to look at that, and we can continue to kind of, we need to make a decision shortly on whether we want to go, dispatch location, in the parking lot or in a trailer. We'll need to nail that down pretty quickly, but yeah, and I think, we can do it the other way. It really comes down to, the duration, and some things came up on our talk this morning, just about kind of, if we do it inside the building, what's that mean? I think, there is some built-in benefit to it as well. It's, fewer moves of some of the bigger technology maybe. So there might be some benefit there, even if it does take longer. So we can continue that conversation, but yeah, we'll want to, Ryan, if you could just send us that plan that you were sharing the other day with the parking lots in the area. If you could share that and just identify that I4C2. In the drawing you were sharing the other day, it wasn't obvious to me where that, I think I visually knew where it was, but I didn't actually see the I4C2 nomenclature anywhere. So I just want to make sure I understand the location as it is presented.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be labeled as I4C2.
Thought that might be an inside.
Well, it is, but you know, in terms of that map that that Ryan showed the other day, it's on the left, on the ocean side. So it really, it's right up against the ocean.
Oh,
Okay.
it's waterfront. We can charge more for that.
We can charge more for that, exactly.
John, I just sent you those financials.
All right, I'll take a look at them before I go today. And
Excellent.
then I will send off to you my my rating sheets.
Excellent. And once I am finished, or I receive yours, John, I will send out to the committee the final ranking based on the RFQ responses and the summary of all the scores.
Okay,
So if anybody has any questions, they can let me know. Otherwise, we'll hang on to these for the record, and we will go from there. Like I said, I should have the RFP out later today or first thing Monday. And we're on for the 8th, I think was what we said.
yep.
Okay.
Neil, I just have one comment. You alluded to that earlier as far as the interview process and any like standardized questions or formats that we want to have for them to bring to the table, and anything like that. Would we provide that with that letter on Monday, or?
We will provide an overview. And I would suggest that in the interim that we reconvene as a group. We can share questions. As far as practice goes, we like to ask the same questions to every firm so that there's some level of accountability and equity among the candidates, and then encourage the committee members to ask follow-up questions based on the discussion points that are raised during each of the interviews. Everyone will bring something different in, which will foster a different discussion, but I think the baseline should really be the same for each of the candidates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's usually how when we conduct interviews internally here, we try to keep continuity with the questions.
Yeah.
The base questions, and then anybody follow up, certainly people can ask whatever they want.
So we keep a database from all of our interviews. We have standard questions. So we'll share that with the group. People can jump on what they like. They can discount what they don't like. They can add, subtract, do whatever it is that you all are comfortable with to come up with a list of questions, and then we'll formalize those and we'll go from there. Sound good?
All right,
Yep.
very good.
Okay.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the agenda. Does anybody else have any new business that they want to raise? Something that wasn't on the agenda? Great, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Roll call vote. John Gunn,
Yes.
Joe Fitzgerald,
Yes.
and Ed Conley, yes. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thanks
Okay.
to you as well. Great job, everyone.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Ryan.